StreamYard says I'm live. Can you guys hear me? I see there are 2 people in here. Let me know if you can hear me. Make sure my audio is set. Yeah, it should be. Okay, cool. All right. Looks like there are 3 in here. I had 2 last week. 2 guys last week. Okay, so I'm gonna be perfectly honest with you. This is terrible, but I was gonna put this in the Telegram chat. Like all week, I was like, I'll put it in the Telegram chat, and I chickened out because honestly, I was just gonna do this as a dry run, not a dry run, but yeah, a dry run, because when I did it last week, it was a complete train wreck. And so I was like, I'm just gonna like relax, nobody watching me, and then maybe it'll go better. But hang around, and hopefully you can pick up some stuff. So last week, what happened? The biggest thing was A, my nerves, and then B, I did not know how to share screen. Oh, I was streaming from inside of YouTube, and I should have been in StreamYard. So now I'm doing it correctly, and I should be able to share my screen. So, and I'm not entirely prepped for this, but I have some experience from last week, and so we should be able to get some information over to you. So, do this. Thanks, man. Appreciate that. Put a 1 in the chat if you don't have any crypto assets. 1 if you have none. 2 if you own Hex. 3 if you have Icosa or Hedron. Just kind of want to get an idea where we are. There might just be 1 in here. I'm hoping, yeah, 1 if you don't have any crypto assets. 2 if you have Hex. 3 if you have Icosa or Hedron. And I hope that's not like a probing question that people, I didn't even think about that. 2 and 3, perfect. Okay. So, I'm hoping this will be like a weekly or a regular stream that we can do as a community to help the new people acclimate. So that's what I'm gaming for, and so this is like practice for me, if you will. I'd like to get good at it. I'd like somebody like on board, have a stream like this where people can ask questions. I am by no means an expert. I'm like a novice at crypto. I really hang my hat on the Icosa, Hedron, and Hex system, and so I have quite a bit of experience there. But I'm even in those systems, I'm not an expert. And this isn't ask me anything. It doesn't mean you're going to get an answer to everything. But what I want to do is a presentation, and then you can ask questions kind of as we go along. And this is how we're going to do it. We're going to do a quick, we're going to start with security because that's very important to me and everyone. We'll talk about Hex quickly, Icosa, Hedron, Watsa, the auctions, and then there'll be some miscellaneous stuff mixed in. And I have lots of miscellaneous things to contribute. So let's see. Yeah, I'm not looking for likes and subs and all that. That's great if you want to like increase the algo. But what I really want is to educate the new people, not to cut down on the clutter in the chat, but just so that people like feel welcome and get some of their questions answered. I love to ask questions. And if there was something like this for, because I just don't see any channels making an AMA. Like, I mean, there's an AMA, but it seems like everybody's in there's just like so professional and groomed on all the crypto aspects of crypto. You can't like ask the basic questions, but I suppose you could, but that's what I want this to be, is new people can come here and ask their questions instead of in the chat so much. But that's my vision. Whether that materializes or not remains to be seen. But let's start with security. So I always recommend that you use a hardware wallet. Here's a hardware wallet. I use the Trezors. The reason you want to do that is because you don't want to be using MetaMask. You don't want to be doing crypto on your computer. You could get hacked. You want to be doing your crypto on a hardware device. And that you only want to buy these from the manufacturer. So there's a direct, unbroken chain of custody from the manufacturer to consumer, you, me. Beware of scammers. Never give anybody your seed phrase, ever. And Alex has been known to be like, people will impersonate Alex. He's the founder of the Icosa and Hedron. Scammers impersonate him and they'll private message you in the chat. Just beware. Alex has the blue check mark. If I remember, I'll show you a picture of him so you have that image in your mind when you're in the chat. Okay, Hex. The biggest thing about Hex is the share rate. Like, we like to buy Hex, have it in our portfolio, but the biggest thing that we're after is the share rate, the T shares. So, and I am not the best at explaining the share rate. I just know that I want as many T shares as I can get, and the share rate goes up. So here's what happened. Here's what happens. You buy Hex, so you actually buy Ethereum and you swap it for Hex on like Uniswap, and I'll show that to you. When you stake your Hex, the Hex is burnt and you mint what's called a T share. And if you mint like less than a T share, you might end up with a B share. It's not uncommon for people to have B shares. And then that B share earns you a certain amount of Hex. And I got to get used to using the correct term. We're not staking Hex anymore. We're actually creating a mine, right? So with that T share, you're actually mining Hex every single day. And one T share of Hex will mine you about 6.2, 6.3 Hex per day. And that number, the number of Hex actually goes up very, very slowly over time. Now, when at the end of when you're ready to claim your mine, you claim it, and that T share that you had is burnt, and you mint the Hex. So the Hex will immediately be in your wallet. And if you took that principal and separated it from the yield and restaked that principal, you would not be able to have the same amount of T shares. And it's built that way on purpose so that it goes up. So it goes up incrementally, slowly, over time. So that T share rate is always increasing, making it more challenging to attain T shares. And so the T shares is really what we're after because they print Hex. It's a beautiful system. So you get, now here's what happens. Alex developed a product called Hedron, and this was last February, March. Hedron's about just a little over a year old. When you stake Hex and you earn that and you have that T share or B share, whatever you have, you get a certain number of Hedron for free for your T shares. And here's the formula. You get 5,555,000 Hedron for every T share. So if you have half a T share, 500, whatever it would be, half a T share, then you get half of that 5.5 0.55 million Hedron. Okay. Now, what we recommend, I hate to say, none of this is financial advice, but what might be wise to do, and it depends on, it's totally up to you, but you can make two types of stakes. You can make what is called a native stake, which is what I just described, where you stake hex on the what's it called? What's the front end? Can you put it in the chat? What's the name for the front end for hex where you can stake a native stake? And I think you can actually do it in the app in this Icosa dApp too. But you can also do what's called an HSI stake. So you can do native stake or an HSI stake. And the HSI stands for Hex Staking Instance. It's just a Hedron. It's wrapped in Hedron. And there are many advantages to making an HSI stake versus a native stake. And I just wrote down one this morning, which is probably the biggest one that is not on my list here. The biggest advantage, which is more like a community advantage of people making HSIs versus native, is we lock up Hex. Hex gets locked up, price go up. But there are other advantages, such as portability. You can make it into an NFT, tokenize it, and then it has an address, and you can send that HSI anywhere to any other address. You can send it to a friend or a relative. You can send it to another wallet if you had one that's compromised. So there's a security advantage. You could sell that HSI on OpenSea. It's basically a financial NFT earning Hex every single day. You can advance with an HSI, you can advance Hedron from it. So, I need to back up. So when you stake Hex and you get one, let's say you have one T-share, and that earns you 5,555,000 Hedron, but that's like a certain rate you earn Hedron every day. So at the maturity of that one T-share Hex stake, you would have a total of 5,555,000 Hedron. It must be 1,000 Hedron per day. Maybe somebody could put that in there. So so you can, but with an HSI, you can advance Hedron from it. So you could advance the full 5,555,000 Hedron. Then you could stake that Hedron on the Icosa dApp and earn Icosa. And then once that stake matures, you could take that Icosa yield, stake the Icosa, and earn Icosa and Hedron. It's brilliant. So you can tokenize that HSI, you can send it. So you can also send it to the Icosa contract. And then what the contract does is it sends you Icosa. So you stake Hex in an HSI stake, and you have it sitting in your wallet. We'll show it to you here in just a bit. And then, if you wanted to, you tokenize it, send it to the Icosa contract, and then the contract immediately sends you Icosa in return. And there's a formula for how much Icosa you get for an HSI stake. Now, if you send a full max length stake, which is 5555 to the Icosa contract, you actually get 10% more Icosa in that buyback function. So let's see if I can show you guys how to do that. I do not have any Icosa in this wallet, but I can kind of give you an idea, I think, of how we do that. Let me share my screen. Share screen. All this is a little bit unfamiliar. I hope you get better at it. Okay. There you go. Now, this is not my wallet. This is someone else's wallet. Oh, I gotta work over here. Okay, so if you had Hex in this wallet, it would be reflected right here. And remember I was telling you about the share rate? Well, this is it today. And remember that number only goes up. So this is the hex portion of the dApp. And then if you come down to, let me make sure we're at here, how to stake hex. So if you had hex here, then you would go into, just bear with me, because I think I want to say it's a little confusing. It has been a little confusing for me to use this in the past, but you can definitely work your way through it. Let's try this one. Where do you go? Where do you go to stake hex? There we go. There it is. It's in the Hedron section. Why is it not in the hex section? There it is. It's in like both, if I remember correctly, and it'll be reflected through all three of these. So if you wanted to create a stake, you would go, oh, I was thinking this was the auctions. So you click on, let's say you have 1,000 hex here and you want to create a stake. So you click on create stake. I'm going to do a max. I'm going to stake all of it. And I want that 10% bonus. So I'm going to do a 5-5-5-5. And here's the option you can create a native stake or an HSI. I want to create an HSI because of all the benefits that I just explained. And then you would stake it. Once you create that HSI, it's going to be sitting. Where is it going to be? Let's see if I think it's down here. I think it's going to be here in the Hedron section. I think. So, I believe, yes, this is the HSI section. Sorry, guys. I'm learning this stuff too. So it'll be sitting here. And then what I need to do is create one so I can show you, because under this actions section, there are things you can do with it. They're like 2 different actions, I believe. One is you can tokenize it. And so you click on the tokenize, you pay for it with your MetaMask. And then after it's tokenized, it's going to be sitting down here with more actions that you can perform with this now tokenized HSI. You can send it to another address, like I said, or you can send it to the Icosa contract, which is one of the options. So, in my opinion is, and we'll get to the calc. I've got some calculators I want to show you guys, but I think Hex is going to rip once Pulse Chain launches. I don't think there's any question, but that's going to happen. But it does remain to be seen. But yeah, we're all excited for that Pulse Chain launch. All right, that covers Hex. So we're done with that. That's like the backbone of the system. Hex is the only reason like Icosa and Hedron exist. And especially that t-shirt is brilliant. Well, we're moving on to Icosa. Does anybody have any questions about Hex that I could perhaps answer? Going once, twice. You guys got to type fast. I'm not doing a great job of paying attention to the chat. And I kind of want to keep things moving. Icosa. I'm like big on Icosa. When I learned about Icosa back last spring, I couldn't sleep for like 3 nights. Something just intuitively told me like this is a big deal. Hedron's really neat, but Icosa was like over the top. Okay, Icosa has the T-share in it twice. Maybe that's one of the reasons we're so excited about it, because the whole community blew up. It has the T-share in it twice. It has it in the buyback feature and the staking points that you earn for staking it. So when you send that I'm probably getting ahead of myself. Let me not do that. Icosa doesn't have any max staking like Hex Staking does. It has minimum staking, and they're short. Love it. So you can stake for like 30, 60, 90, 180, 73, 60 days. And what you can do is the dApp will tell you how many days you got to stake for a certain amount of Icosa. And if you want to shorten that stake, you just reduce the amount of Icosa. Show you the calculator. Icosa doesn't have max staking. It has minimum staking days for a max amount of token. This would be, oh, let's go. Let me show you this as well. No, hold up. I want to show, yeah. Getting used to sharing this screen here. So again, this is not my wallet. Let's say I wanted to add to this stake. And I want to see, now watch the minimum staking days. I want to add 1,000 Icosa. Well, it's going to be a 180-day stake, but okay, so I'm not going to do a 180-day stake. I want to stake every 90 days so I can compound faster. What would that be? Probably about 100 would do. 100. It's not going to let me do that. Do 100. Oh, it's not going to let me do it twice. So anyhow, you kind of get the idea. When you go to create your stake, the dApp will show you how many days you got to stake for. And I have a calculator that will help you estimate that in advance. So you don't even have to get into your wallet. And if you even want to test it, you can test it without committing and paying for it. But you can only make one stake per wallet, but you can make as many stakes as you're comfortable managing on multiple wallets. I try to keep it to a minimum, honestly. You don't have to end your stake, but you will pay a graduated penalty for emergency end staking. So if you had a 180-day stake like this one is, and it was mature, you could just let it go and it will continue to earn yield and you don't get penalized for it. It's beautiful. But if you do end it, if you want to end it early, then you're penalized. So if you were 10% into a 180-day stake and you ended it, the penalty would be 90% of your principal and your yield that you would forfeit for ending 90% early. So, and we call that emergency end staking. Now, there are some times when emergency end staking might be profitable, but you need to be very deliberate and careful when deciding to do that. Your share of the pool. Okay, then we need to talk about that. Pool ownership. Now, this is where it gets a little bit sticky for me, but you earn when you stake Icosa, you get a certain number of stake points, and those stake points determine your position in the pool. Your share of the pool determines your yield, which is determined by your stake points. Your pool share will go down as other people enter the pool, but your stake points remain the same. If you have a stake ending, okay, here's a lot of people ask this in the chat. They're like, well, how do I know if I should end my stake and what I should do with my yield and such? Well, what you can do is, let's say this person has 2.32 million points and he's wondering, well, should I end this stake? What's going to happen to my stake points? Because it's based on the T-share. The T-share rate has gone up since this person staked. And now he's wondering whether he should end the stake or and what he should do with his yield. Like what's going to happen to his stake points, because stake points determines his yield. And if he were to add this yield to the principal, if he went down in stake points, he would earn less yield. Does that make sense? So what you do, this is this was so groundbreaking when I learned this in the chat. I was like, oh, that's so simple. It makes so much sense. And people ask it a lot. It's very simple. Add your yield to your principal and divide it by the current share rate, which you can find at the Hex Daily Stats. Let me just switch over to there. So let's do this real quick. 958 plus 538. And I'm going to be taking care of this one on Sunday. And the share rate is, I always get it from Hex Daily Stats. I guess, isn't it right there in the dApp, right? Let's just get it from here. Divided by 26591. It didn't work for me for some reason. 958 plus 538 divided by 26591. 26591. How many points is that going to be? Well, he's going to double his points because he's going to have like 5.62. Pretty sweet. And the same applies for the Hedron side. Jerry asks, are you better to add to stake or restake Hedron or Icosa? I hope I just answered your question. If you add to your stake, if you do add to your stake, and I always, I didn't know this at the time when I made this one for an onboardee, okay? But I always keep one Icosa and a Hedron in the wallet so that I can reduce the number of days, which is a trick you can do. If you do add to the stake, it resets the clock, which can be a disadvantage. Like if I added 1/10 of an Icosa, which is what I would do, it would reset the clock on this one, and all of this yield would be locked up for another 180 days. Awesome. That's what I'm here for, man. That's good. Let me just make sure I'm keeping up with this. Okay, let me just read this. This is basically what I just described. If you have a stake ending and you're deciding whether to end it or not, add your yield plus your principal, divide by the current T-share rate, and if your stake points go up, it might make sense to restake. You can add to your principal and it won't affect the previous principal. What I mean by that is any additional principal is calculated at the new current share rate. So this principal here was at a much lower share rate, more than 180 days ago. Any additional principal that you add is calculated at the new share rate, the one I just showed you, and resets the clock. There are instances where you could reduce your stake days. You just got to keep an eye on supply, and I'll show you that later. I was able to reduce one of my stakes by like 30 or 90 days just because the supply had increased, and I added literally 1/10 of an Icosa, and it went from whatever 270 days to 240 days or something like that, or whatever, 180 days, something like that. It was awesome. So where does this yield come from? Well, Icosa yield is the daily burned Hedron divided by the share rate, and it goes to all three pools. So how is Hedron burned? Hedron is burned in the liquidation auctions. So when people bid on HSIs, I'm going to switch over here. I am going to get them ahead of myself on purpose. These are HSIs that are waiting to be started, the auctions. They're available to be liquidated. They've been on, they've been in default for 90 days. And then we can start the auction. just pay the gas and it starts the auction. Those are the ones above. Ones down below are the auctions that are currently being auctioned. And when you want to bid on these, you have to do so with Hedron. When the Hedron, when people win the auction, that Hedron is burnt. Okay, and then that burnt Hedron goes to the Icosa stakers. Make sense? Okay. How do I get Icosa? Well, you can get it on Uniswap, Matcha, or Matcha.xyz, or you can send an HSI like we talked about. And like I showed you, you just check the exchange rate first. And I think you can do that on Sloth's site. If Sloth is still in here, wind pump. I think you could do that on Sloth's site. So let's just go here. If you have an HSI, put the address in, hold a second. Icosa moon math. How much mintable Icosa? You put your address right here and then calculate it. Somebody hasn't, man. I wish I had an address because I want to do that. I don't have any HSIs. And that just makes sure you're getting a good deal. Right now, Icosa is so cheap. I would buy the Icosa before I send any HSIs. Because right now, Icosa is like 4x below its ceiling. And I'll show you that. When you send an HSI, the contract immediately takes an advance on all the Hedron. That's what happens, man. That contract advances all the advanceable Hedron from that HSI. And it's actually sends that to the Hedron staking pool. So the Hedron stakers get that. And then what it does is it lets that HSI go into default for non-payment. And after 90 days, it's available for auction. So how do you get Icosa? You can also just stake Hedron. Consider laddering your Icosa stakes. For example, you could make 90-day stakes ending every month over the course of a year, and then you can do whatever you want with the yield and restake the principal. So just like you can create a hex staking ladder, you can do the same with an Icosa ladder. All right, any questions on Icosa? Because we're going to move on to Hedron next, and then Watsa briefly. Some big dates you want to keep an eye on. All right, looks like we're moving on to Hedron. The yield in this pool, let's show it. That'll work, I think. Nope. I think I might not have been showing the correct screen. I want to show the dApp. Share screen, Icosa. There we go. All right, let's go back to Icosa. Okay, so Icosa on the left, Hedron on the right. The yield in this pool is the daily advanced Hedron from HSIs sent to the contract. So when you send an HSI or people send HSIs to the contract, strips that HSI of all the Hedron and it goes to this pool right now. The Icosa pool is the most competitive pool. I'm going to show you a calculator at the end of this. That's gonna probably knock your socks off. Hedron right now is about 47%, 47x below the ceiling price. That just means more will get burnt, which will increase its rarity. Why will more get burnt? Because people are willing to spend 47 times more Hedron to liquidate an HSI. As the value of Hedron goes up, people will be spending less of that Hedron to liquidate those HSIs. So it's not bad that the price is down right now for Hedron. It's really not. because just more gets burnt. More gets burnt increases its rarity. As rarity increases, the value conceptually goes up, increases. And the same staking and pool share principles apply to Hedron as in the Icosa pool. So we don't need to talk about this at length. Pop any questions that you got in the chat. But the pools are very similar in mechanics, if you will. So you stake a certain amount of Hedron and you get a certain number of stake points and pool ownership. So I don't know if I made clear, but the stake points are fixed. Like when you make your stake, you got 1.51 T points. This person does. But as people come into the pool ownership will go down. And I'm not sure that you can like use the same calculation to figure out your whether you can like compound that yield, because what you would have to do. Remember I showed you like you can add your yield to your principal to figure out your stake points. I think what you have to do in this instance is, because this is a different asset, is you would have to flip this Icosa, convert it to Hedron, and then add it to that Hedron to see if you increased in points, stake points, if that makes sense. I don't know if there's a surefire way to figure out whether it's wise to reset your stake by compounding for the Hedron pool. I just don't know. Watsa was now don't give up on Watsa, because there's a nugget at the end of this. It was a 14-day opportunity to buy a financial NFT at the beginning of Icosa. It's closed. But like I said, don't tune out. The Watsa pool. Where is the Watsa? We are all the SA. It's a brilliant system, that opportunity for investors that Alex McWhorter built into the Icosa Hedron system. Everybody that holds Watsas, I think, is really, really grateful to Alex for that. The Watsa pool gets a copy of the Icosa, and that goes to the Icosa. Hold up. The Watsa pool gets a copy of the Icosa that goes to the Icosa and the Hedron pool. Plus, I think we get penalties. It's like a game of chicken. This wallet doesn't have any Watsas. So sad for them. They didn't get in on it. But remember that pool ownership that is always going down, because as people come into the pool, that number will decrease. Well, this number would do the opposite. It will increase over time. It's like a game of chicken. So people own these 21,506 Watsas, and as people burn those Watsas, they're out of the pool, and all the yield coming into the pool just gets gets distributed to the remaining stakers, so their yield increases. So a Watsa is an NFT that can be exchanged for the inherent Icosa at any time, but when exchanged, that Watsa is burnt and everyone else's share of the pool increases. There are Watsas. If you don't have one or two or more, they are available on OpenSea. There's a Telegram group, and I think I put the link at the bottom of this description. I think it's in the description for the video. There's a Telegram group. If you don't have a Watsa and you're interested in those, go ask those guys what a good deal is on OpenSea for those things. Watsas are pretty special. Watching that pool ownership go up is like very, very exciting. There are some big days that you're going to need to keep an eye on, and we're getting to the end. We're getting to the end. There's some big days to think to keep an eye on. April 23rd is the first one. There was somebody that recently, like 6 or 7 weeks ago, was sending some large HSIs to be liquidated. And so we're expecting a pretty good wave of yield come into the Icosa pool. If you have 270-day stakes or stakes ending near April 23rd, again, be careful to make sure. I think the dApp lets you know how much penalty you're going to incur if you emergency end stake. But who wouldn't take a 1% penalty to, get some of the yield that's going to come in to the pool in those days? April 23rd. The bigger, here's a little thing, is that the bigger the more T shares or hex that an HSI has, the more likely they're gonna sell. There's tons. I don't know if I showed you, but there are tons of HSIs on liquidations right now because they're just too small. As the value of hex goes up and as the T share value increases, those will eventually go. And there's another factor, which is the gas prices on the Ethereum side. So once we have the Pulse network, the HSIs will be copied over there, and they will go much faster. So we can actually probably expect quite a bit of yield coming over on that Pulse side. So can I show you? I want to show you the April 23rd because we're talking about these dates. my screen is pulling up, so just hold tight. There's another date you got to keep an eye on. I don't know why, but except for that, it's going to end. It's like an end date. Right now, there is 42,000 Icosa per day being seeded into the Icosa pool. So it's like given for free. I think the SA built it. I think the SA burnt a bunch of Hedron to make that happen, to kind of stimulate things. That ends August 10th. 42,000 per day ends August 10th. Write that on your calendar. Why? Because your yield's probably going to drop a little bit. I'm just being real plain and honest. So the time to get in is soon, like soon. Hey, I want to show you that. I want to stop share screen, and I want to present this one, Hex model. It's one of the sites I wanted to show you. So this is, let's see here. This would be, no, I'm sorry. This must be this one. I think this is April 23rd right here. No, this is the yield. I'm sorry. Somewhere on this Icosa page is the Icosa that's coming in to, I think this must be it right here. On day 183. Yes. Okay, this is the Icosa yield. Day 183, there should be quite a bit of yield coming in. Why? Because those HSIs are becoming available for liquidation. And if I had a stake ending right here, why I might be inclined to EES back here somewhere so that I could capture that yield. So we're averaging around 210,000, just to give you an idea. 42,000 per day seeded liquidity ends August 10th. We're averaging around 210,000 Icosa per day, including the big days. And there's another date. God Whale's 5 trillion Hedron stake matures August 30th. It has earned, check this out, it has earned 6.6 million Icosa for an average of like 34,000 a day. If that average continued until the 30th of August, he'll have about 12 million Icosa to then restake. The stake supply is currently 34 million of Icosa. So he could potentially dilute the pool by about 35%. That's a big deal. We don't know what he's going to do with that thing. But that would be a big, big dilution. And again, what's the point in mentioning that? The point is get in now if you want to take a part of this inflationary period. And the last one is another seeded wave of seeded liquidity, which ends November 5th, and that's 8,307 per day. Auctions. Let's show you the auctions. Why? I already did, but I want to show you because I have some notes on it. I don't know that I actually need to show you that, but let me just bear with me and I'll go through the process. Okay, so these are the ones that are waiting to be started. Anybody that starts auctions, they get bonuses. No, I'm just kidding. You get brownie buttons. And here's the live auctions. Ooh, yeah. I got to show you. I wish this thing would, like, because I want to be able to look into hedron.com. I wish I could, like, just show this whole monitor. Let me see if I can do this. Share a screen. I can't. I mean, I have all these tabs pulled up and I want to, here it goes, entire screen. Yes. Okay. Excellent. All right. This is Sloth's site. And there's a calculator on here if you're interested in these deals. These are the HSI liquidations that are that are going to end the most. How do you put it? These ones are ending very soon. So, and you can click on these, and you can see the address of who's bidding, and so you could check out their wallet and see if they have like a ton of Hedron. Maybe you don't want to compete with somebody that has a lot of Hedron. But you can also get an idea of the value of the HSI, the value of the bid. 722 Hedron. Man, that's like less than a candy bar. Underlying Icosa, 0.029 Icosa. The cost to make the stake was one. Good grief. What in the world? Is this a joke? Is it a good deal? Yes. Is it a good deal relative to the cost to make the stake today? Yes. And then you can refresh the data. Let's look at another one. The value of the bid. There we go. 10 grand. Now that's a better deal. It's going to burn some Hedron. We love that. It's not a good deal relative to the mintable Icosa though. So, and here's your live stats down here, just the prices. Only Hedron is used to liquidate. Talked about that. Minimum bid. Oh, the minimum bid, they start with the advanced Hedron. So only the Hedron that was advanced to make the HS, how do you put it? The advanceable Hedron is the starting bid, which is always a great deal. It's a great place to start those auctions. And then they just go up from there. And people are getting some screaming deals. The day before yesterday, I put it on Twitter. Somebody bought a 500 T-share HSI. And if you factored in the T-share rate and the inherent hex, they basically, it was like a 81% discount. I figured that's a big deal. The auctions run for 24 hours. Let's go back here. So it's 24-hour auction. Last minute, people that are outbid the last minute, what happens is it resets the clock for another 5 minutes. There are thousands of HSIs waiting to go. The bigger ones go the fastest. They will all eventually go as the hex price appreciates and as the T-share becomes more rare or increases. Use caution in bidding. We've seen people add extra zeros and wreck their bag of Hedron. Just be careful. Pro tip: copy and paste the high bidder and use that as your template, and always double check before you commit. If you win an auction, the HSI is immediately sent to your wallet. If you lose, if you're outbid, your Hedron is returned and all you spent was gas. Can you imagine how the auctions are going to be on the pull side? Can you imagine the yield that's going to be on the pull side? We're going to have another big wave. Yay! Okay, Hex, Icosa, Hedron, and Watsa will all be copied onto the Pulse network that RH is developing. Follow Hex News on Telegram for updates, and also Richard Hart on Twitter. Cryptographics wrote a book about all of this, and that book should be in the video description. Let me go make sure that's there. It's not, because I deleted my old description. And so I need to get that. I need to get that book in there. I'll add it, and then you guys can download it. Cryptographics was in here a lot at the very beginning, and he kind of disappeared for a while. And we're like, "Where is this guy?" Well, he was writing a book, and it covers crypto and, in particular, Hex, Icosa, and Hedron. Now there is a calculator in the description, and I really kind of want to talk about that. I want to show that to you guys because it seems like we missed a lot. Let me just run through these tabs that I have pulled up. Hex model is excellent. I don't know if you guys have any idea what it takes to put together something like this, but it can be rather, it's like all these tabs and links and information. You got to kind of get it all in order. It's very challenging. Hex model, that's going to be a link in the description. I highly recommend it. Dev Huey built it, and he works on it. It's an excellent resource. Stakehex.today. If you have hex stakes, this is not mine. You pop in your address and you can see your stakes and when they end and all that. I love Stakehex.today. Hex Daily Stats is a great place to go to see what's going on with Hex. I mainly go here. I go here a lot just to see what Gwei is doing and what the T-share rate is doing. But there's tons of information down here all about Hex. Now, this is another one of my favorites. Hexfire.io. Crispy built it. The beauty of this site is you can somehow he estimates how the T-shares is going to increase over time. And he does it just by looking at all the existing stakes and estimating when they're going to end their stake. And so you can look in here and see and get an idea where the share rate's going to be over time. I like using the Aurox Wallet versus MetaMask. I was recently introduced to Trust token, and apparently it's great. I signed up, but honestly, I haven't really checked it out much. What you can do is you can onboard, on-ramp your fiat and off-ramp your fiat, and then it uses a wiring system. I use Uniswap for swapping from Ethereum to other tokens. There's like a delay in the presentation here. All right, we're going to talk about supply. I'm going to show you my calculator, but let's, in the calculator is the supply, but let's show you how to get the supply. And there's a link in the calculator to this site here, BitQuery. This is the Icosa contract address. It ends in 9ED. Okay. And the total supply is the amount of liquid Icosa sitting in people's wallets. And it's, man, is it 371? I think it's 3.718 million Icosa sitting in people's wallets. And this is the number that determines your stake length. But if you wanted to count the total Icosa, you would take this number and add it to the staked supply, which is I think it's 363 million. Okay, but this is where to find the supply levels. And again, there's a link in the description. Etherscan is where I go to find the supply of Hedron. And this is it right here, 116 trillion. And that's a number a lot more easily to discern. Okay. Oh, I'm going through the tabs. My copy AMA. Just let me get my bearings here for a second. Supply to stake estimator, ceiling price. Okay. Yeah, we're almost done, guys. Almost done. Almost an hour too. Any questions? If you got any questions, just shoot them in there because it's a pretty quiet chat, which I appreciate because this is all kind of new. Okay, hold up. I think I'm ready to just go through this calculator. I got a video right here, man. I did it yesterday, which breaks it down very in detail. Took me like 30 minutes. I think it's a 30-minute video, but let me just go over it very, very briefly. It's a portfolio tracker. I built it for myself. This is not my wallets. This is not my data. This is all fictitious. But you can just watch the video to see more information on it. But if you keep it up to date, it could be a valuable tool. Let me show you some of the cool calculations that are in here. It'll track your stake points and shares. I'll give you a summary of the Icosa Hedron. It'll tell your total profit, and you can plug your hex in here. And it's going to give you some summaries. I don't know why that one has an error on it. It'll show you the APY. This is interesting, guys. Look at this. So this is last week. I tracked my yield, and the yield in the Icosa pool was 315%. Hedron was 59%. That's why you waited almost an hour to see this. At ceiling price, this would be the APY, the theoretical APY. And here's another little nugget down here. Oh, this is cool because you can put in, let's say you wanted to stake 5,000 Icosa. Well, it's going to tell you how many you can earn about in a day, and Hedron also. And estimating yield per day for Hedron, you can do the same thing. How many is that? Ah, perfect. You'd earn like 3 Icosa a day. And these are estimates based on some history of one of my wallets, one of my stakes. Best pool per day per dollar as of last cycle. Let's say you had some fiat and you were trying to decide which pool to put this in. I'm going to take $2,000 and I'm going to put it in one of these pools, or you could split it up. So if you put it in one pool or the other, if you put it in the Icosa pool, you'd earn about $15 in yield per day between the Icosa and Hedron. If you put it in the Hedron staking pool, you'd earn about $3. Does that help? Man, that helped me. I mean, I think we all knew the Icosa pool was pretty rich, but when I built this little calc, I was like, whoa, baby, man. Now this is going to change over time. We anticipate it to. And I think, oh, yes. So here is the supply. Remember I showed you that stake supply and the total supply. You plug those numbers in here and it will tell you the max number of Icosa that you can stake for 180 days, 90 days, 30 days. All right. You just got to keep these numbers up to date. Like before you go to stake, plug them in and it'll give you an idea. Right. But the dApp is going to give you the up to date current amounts. And share rate urgency, like when we all started, it was 23,176. Now it's like 26,570 something right now. So it's increasing. And I do believe that that's about it. This is the last thing I'm going to cover in Calcs is the Icosa and Hedron ceiling price. You can just glance at that. But again, a link to this calculator is in the description and you can download it and modify it to your liking. Watch the video if you want a better description of how to use it. I think we're almost done, guys. Here's the link to graphics book. Oh, it should be in there. I'll just make sure it's in there. Okay, Hex explained. And I'm going to recommend some channels. RH Max, Crypto Sloth, Axis Alive, Maxim Broadcast. They're all in my recommended channels list. And Alex McWhorter has been threatening to do an AMA. So I don't know what his channel is. I'd like to find out, but I'm definitely going to be on that one. Meaning I'm going to listen. There's some excellent Telegram groups. Join the Telegram, ask all your questions. Hex, Icosa, there's Hex Security if you have questions about security like we touched on. There's a Watsa group and Hex News. There's also people you should follow on Twitter. Richard Hart, Alex McWhorter, Dev Huey, Crypto Sloth, and Maxim Broadcast. Watch this, guys. I'm going to show you something. Okay, here's Alex. He has the blue star. I think he was fishing. Here are some different ways that you can take your yield. You could put all your yield in the Icosa pool. You could put it all in the Hedron pool, or you could split it up different ways. And there's a copy of this in the handout that's in the description. Just some things to think about before you make, before you take some actions. That's it, guys. 1 hour, just over an hour. Got any questions? I'm just going to hang tight here for a second and we'll shut it down. Stop sharing my screen. Ooh, I like that. Stop sharing button. Any questions? All right. If you see new people coming into the chat, if you think this was valuable, I appreciate you guys coming. And if you found it valuable and you find new people in the chat, you can send them a link to this. I'm not really looking for subs or likes or anything like that, just to be educational. If you think it's valuable, then you could, I guess you could PM them this video or something. But yeah, no more questions. Okay. Seems like you liked it, guys. If you got any feedback for me, just reach out in the Telegram. And hopefully we can do this again. All right, guys. Happy Friday. See you in the chat.